Our ship she lay at anchor.
So when you have an American frigate that gets captured for the first time, and we're talking about the Shannon versus the Chesapeake, this was a big deal.
The capture of the American frigate Chesapeake was celebrated in the theaters of London.
She comes in glorious style, the quarters fly, my heart's all oak, success shall soon reward our toil. Exclaim the gallant Captain Brooke, 3 cheers, my brave lads, let our honor be sweet, then give them a taste of our cannon. And soon by the bellows the proud Chesapeake shall lower her flag to the Shannon.
With most of her forces still engaged in Europe, a small British fleet set sail for the Chesapeake Bay.
Most people don't even know that the Chesapeake suffered more raids than any other theater of war.
Located in the heart of the 15 United States, the region had a thriving maritime and agricultural economy.
All of that changed in the winter of 1812-1813. The British ordered a blockade to be established at the mouth of the Chesapeake. Pretty much by March, there was a British presence there. This severely affected trade.
The British quickly established a base at Tangier Island. The man in charge would leave a lasting impression on the people of the region.
Cockburn was pretty ruthless. He was hated by many Americans, but particularly by those in the Chesapeake.
Well, George Cockburn first was a very good naval commander. He was very able, he was a good seaman, and he was a good leader of men. He was also lucky, I think, that a very short time into the conflict of 1812, he was given a commander over him in Alexander Cochrane, one from a great naval family.
To me, the real sad part of the war was all of the raiding that took place, because we had a foreign country that had invaded the United States. The British decided to head up to the Upper Bay, and this is in April, May, and June of 1813. And that's when it really brought the war home, because what they did is they went up and they attacked places like Havre de Grace and literally destroyed it. Baltimore pretty much knew that they would be a likely target.
Baltimore is the 3rd largest city in the country. It is a booming port, very strategic.
And the British knew that a lot of privateers were being built there.
The United States government had employed private vessels since the Revolution. These so-called privateers were sanctioned to harass and engage enemy merchant vessels.
And then in exchange, of course, there's a prize, and that major portion goes to the individual that owns the ship and, of course, the people who were the crew on the ship. Privateering has been something that's been going on in Baltimore for a long time.
And if they can reduce Baltimore, that will be a huge victory for them.
In the summer of 1813, George Armistead is given command of the large fort defending Baltimore Harbor.
He decided that he needed a larger flag, and so he went to Mary Pickersgill. And he ordered a flag that was 42 feet by 30 feet. That is a big, big flag. We tend to say Mary Pickersgill made the flag, but she had an awful lot of help as well. When the English defeat Napoleon in 1814, this was bad, bad news for the United States.
1814 is the year the Empire strikes back, the British Empire. Napoleon has been beaten in Europe. They can transfer forces to North America, and they're going to end this troublesome war with this troublesome former colony. And they plan several attacks of the American mainland. One is in the north down Lake Champlain. The final one will be on New Orleans in the south, but then the third big one is in the Chesapeake.
In the summer of 1814, General Sir Robert Ross and his army reinforced Cockburn's fleet in the Chesapeake.
Ross is in command of troops that had fought in the Iberian Peninsula against Napoleon.
And the first prong of it goes to Washington.
In late August, the British Army marches on Washington City. Unprepared, the American defenses are defeated at Bladensburg.
Key is present at the Battle of Bladensburg as a civilian, not as a militiaman.
They burn public Washington to the ground, the Capitol building, the White House, ruins.
A surprising fact is that the Americans burnt more buildings than did the British. And that's because the Navy Yard was ordered to be destroyed to keep it out of British hands.
After occupying Washington City, the Army returns to the fleet. One of their prisoners is Dr. William Beans.
He was a very prominent physician that lived in Upper Marlboro. Well, Beans was so popular that the people in the community did everything in their power to try to seek his release.
John Skinner, an American agent for prisoner exchange, is dispatched to negotiate the release of Dr. Beans. Sent with him is an attorney from Georgetown.
And that attorney just happens to be Francis Scott Key. So Key goes to Baltimore to join Skinner, where they hop on a packet boat with a white flag, meaning it's a truce vessel. They sail down the Chesapeake looking for the British fleet.
After 2 days, they eventually find the British fleet and begin negotiations.
What convinced them, however, is that along with them, the Americans brought letters from some of the wounded soldiers who were left behind at the Battle of Bladensburg. And those letters attested to how well they were being treated by the Americans. And so when these letters were shown to the British officers, they agreed to release Beans. But because by this time these Americans knew the intent of the British, and that was to now attack Baltimore, they were kind of under house arrest. They weren't prisoners, but they weren't allowed to leave. So that means that as the British are moving up the Chesapeake and eventually up the Patapsco River for the bombardment of Fort McHenry, Francis Scott Key, Dr. Beans, and John Stuart Skinner, along with the crew of the packet vessel, are all witnessing the bombardment from the British perspective.
Imagine, if you will, the total turnaround of events. I mean, with Washington burned, the people of Baltimore actually looked to the south, and they saw the sky lit up from the burning of their nation's capital. And then, within just 2 weeks' time, that feeling of utter destruction, of utter despair, of feeling as if doom was just about to come up the bay, the people of Baltimore rallied. They dug trenches. They fortified their own fort. People from the countryside came in here, and we decided to make our stand, and we decided not to yield, not 1 inch. We were going to carry this day, whether we had a national government to back us up or not. We had each other, and we were going to hold firm.
As the fleet approached Baltimore, the Americans on the truce ship remembered the plans of the British.
The British were very, very astute. They realized that if they could take the fort, and by that, of course, I mean Fort McHenry, they then would be able to get their vessels close enough to bombard the city itself.
Unlike Washington, D.C., Baltimore is very well defended. It has fortifications. The militia general in charge of its defense, who's Senator Samuel Smith, does a very competent job organizing the defense.
So what the British decided to do was a two-pronged approach, and they typically did this through most of the war. They would send troops by land at North Point that would then try to attack the city on the east side. And then they would also use their flotilla to try to bombard Fort McHenry. If they were able to take Fort McHenry, they could then move closer and support their land forces. If Baltimore had fallen, it's very likely that the United States would have sued for peace.
On Sunday, September 11th, the British fleet arrived at North Point and began landing their troops after midnight.
So imagine if you're Francis Scott Key and you're being held on board the British fleet, the largest enemy fleet that ever came into the Chesapeake Bay, and you see thousands of troops preparing to land at North Point, and you see bomb ships, you see rocket ships, you see large warships with their cannons all getting ready to attack Baltimore.
And he had already been out into the bay for days before, encountering the British fleet, interacting with the British, obtaining the promise of the release.
And then thinking about what had just happened at Bladensburg, where the Americans did not perform very well, I suspect that Key and Skinner and even Beans were very, very worried about what might happen.
In an early skirmish, British morale is dealt a serious blow when General Ross is mortally wounded by an American sniper.
Ross was one of the best officers that they had here in North America at that time.
At 6 a.m. on Tuesday, September 13th, the bombardment of Fort McHenry begins.
And so the bombardment took place with large ships standing off alongside the troop ships. They were firing at long cannon, but at such a distance they weren't really having a lot of effect. So Cochrane sends in rocket barges carrying Congreve rockets.
That was the terror of the war at that time. This is something that the Americans had never seen before. Many of the Americans first saw them at the Battle of Bladensburg, and they began to realize that maybe they weren't accurate. But by golly, they sure did scare you, because as they're coming across the sky, they're whistling, smoke's coming out, sparks are coming out, and then they can explode.
And also accompanied by 4 bomb ships. These were firing large mortars. They were firing shot that was 13 inches in diameter, weighing hundreds of pounds.
The effect of a mortar shell, or a bomb if you want to call it that, is that it can come up over the walls of the fort and land inside of the fort.
This is devastating. This happens hour after hour after hour, almost as though we were in a First World War trench under a bombardment for hours on end. The noise would have been horrendous. The bombs bursting in air, as Key puts it. The rockets' red glare. All of these things, they're frightening, they're terrifying.
What was the weather like at this time? Well, it was stormy. And because it was stormy, you've got clouds in the sky. Well, when you have an explosion underneath clouds, that light is reflected in those clouds, which makes it even more awesome.
The huge flag itself, the Star-Spangled Banner, was not flying in the rain, was not flying at night.
Well, there's no question that there were 2 flags that were made for the fort. There was the largest flag that we refer to as the garrison flag, and there was a smaller flag that we refer to as the storm flag. What were the conditions during the bombardment of the fort? It was rainy. If you had the garrison flag flying at that time that was made out of wool bunting, it would have absorbed so much water, it would have weighed, they estimate, around 400 pounds and probably would have caused the flagstaff to actually collapse. So is it likely that it was the garrison flag that flew over the fort during the bombardment, even though most Americans believe that? Not likely. It was almost certainly the storm flag. We have no idea what happened to the storm flag. We have no idea even what the storm flag looked like.
In fact, this drawing in watercolor, probably made shortly afterward, shows a flag over the fort with an unusual layout of the stars. It also shows an American vessel among the front line of British ships. Was this Key's location during the bombardment?
The rain had pretty much stopped, and the sun was beginning to come out. So early in the morning, the bombardment now stops.
After determining the fleet could not support an attack of the earthworks and troops defending Baltimore, the British land forces withdraw.
Well, this was a pretty momentous occasion for not just the guys who were in this fort, but for all of the citizens in Baltimore, because they begin to realize, okay, something has happened here. Are the British, have they stopped the attack? Have we won? What's going on?
To see the Star-Spangled Banner just still floating must have lifted his spirits and his heart, and perhaps must have inspired him immediately.
There are a bunch of issues going on. Was he thinking out loud? Was he quoting something that somebody else like Skinner might have said or Beans might have asked?
What's so powerful about the Star-Spangled Banner? The first verse is a question. It ends on a question. It's not answered. Is it still there? Will it still be flying? And then only in the second verse do we see, yes, it is. It's beaten back this attack. It's still up there waving.
And then little by little they began to realize that the British ships are beginning to prepare to withdraw back down the Patapsco River.
Armistead orders the fort's morning gun fired at 9 o'clock. A band plays Yankee Doodle as the large garrison flag is raised.
If I were a militiaman and I was standing on the fortifications on the east side of Baltimore, and I saw the British withdrawing, and I saw the fleet moving down the Patapsco River, I would have been beside myself with joy, because not only did I have to face possible death, but we realized that we had a major victory.
And so it's not just a happy song. You know, it takes you through the darkness. It takes you through the effort and the struggle. And then after that, if you struggle hard enough, yes, the flag is still flying.
Well, on the other hand, think about what was it like for the British. It was pretty galling for them to have to see this grand flag flying over the fort and knowing that they were unsuccessful, because that's something that they were not accustomed to.
Key and the others were not immediately released. Skinner's duties as agent of prisoner exchange were required at North Point.
You've got around 5,000 troops that have to be ferried out into small boats to be put on the troop transports. So by the time all of this is done, a day and a half has gone by before the British are officially departing the Patapsco River. And it's only at that point that Francis Scott Key and John Stuart Skinner and Dr. William Beans are released.
In all, he was away almost 10 days. And during such a long period of time, there's plenty going on in a gentleman amateur poet's mind.
And what do they go past as they're heading toward Baltimore? They go right by Fort McHenry. By this time, the large garrison flag, the huge flag that we referred to as the Star-Spangled Banner, is proudly flying over the fort.
I mean, remember, he had written a full song, many verses, almost a decade before. And in that song, he had referenced the Star-Spangled Flag of our nation.
And that night, while he's in a hotel, he began to put those words down on paper. And as we believe, those are the very words that are on this manuscript that is preserved at the Maryland Historical Society.
Well, we'll never know exactly how the song came together, but that it was stewing and brewing melodically in his heart and in his mind. That's significant. This was not cold poetry. This was a living melody.
Oh, thus be it ever when free men shall stand between their loved home and the war's desolation. Blessed with victory and peace, may the heaven-rescued land praise the power that hath made and preserved us a nation. Then conquer we must when our cause it is just, and this be our motto, in God is our trust. And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
And the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph shall wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
In late 1814, Americans were truly celebrating the successful defense of Baltimore.
Not surprisingly, given the tremendous shot in the arm that the defense of Baltimore was for the nation, the Star-Spangled Banner was not the only music that told the story of what happened here in this place for our country's history.
Other songs, also put to familiar tunes, were written about the attack, but none were as popular as Key's.
So how does a good song spread at this time? It spreads if it's liked, if it resonates with people.
Key's words were first published as a broadside within a day of his return.
I guarantee you that on the way to the fort, that whoever was hand-carrying these broadsides, 1,000 broadsides, that's a lot. We're not talking a ream of modern paper here. We're talking old sheet, heavy paper. We're talking people most likely just gleefully marching through the streets, sharing it, giving it away. Reports are that when sung in the theater, it would bring the house down, that with repeated encores. Obviously, that's where that song should be, in the public. Holiday Street Theater sat about 2,000 people. Can you imagine the resonance of 2,000 people?
One way to define the outcome of the War of 1812 is status quo ante. Nothing changes. But in any draw between a superpower and a lesser power, if the lesser power leaves it with the situation as it was, they can rightfully claim victory.
As the years went on, and 4th of July celebrations, presidential inaugurals, public gatherings, the Star-Spangled Banner began to take its place as a national song. In competition with the Star-Spangled Banner through the 19th century was Hail Columbia, a set of patriotic words written in 1798 to a march that was originally composed for George Washington. As we go through the middle of the 19th century, probably the Star-Spangled Banner and Hail Columbia were the two most called for nationalistic tunes. When you hear our national anthem performed at a major sporting event, how close to Francis Scott Key's vision is that performance?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light?
We're used to hearing our national anthem beginning on what's called a descending arpeggio. It's a triad sung one note at a time from the top down. Oh, say, can you? I mean, that's the definitive opening melodic material of our national anthem. But that's not how the song went back then. In fact, there are publications of the Star-Spangled Banner as late as 1910, only 100 years ago, where it still is starting, as it did in Key's day, at the bottom of this triad. Oh, say, can you see? Bum-ba-dum. That's an ornament. It was added. And it wasn't really even formalized. And it didn't become the only way to do it until less than a century ago. Another interesting change, if you look back at the Anacreontic tune, where he sat in full glee, da-da-da-dum, that's not the way we do it anymore. We sing it, ya-da-da-da-da-dum. So for whatever reason, it seems to be Thomas Carr, the Maryland organist and printer and of the Carr family of publishers, who came up with this innovation of da-da-da-dum.
It became popular to the point that the U.S. Army and the U.S. Navy typically used it in many of their ceremonies.
In fact, John Philip Sousa, who was for a time the leader of the United States Marine Band, Sousa had a lot to do with encouraging the performance of this piece, not just in America, but on his world tours, and heightening people's awareness of this great tune.
It's hard to believe that a country that was formed in 1775, 1776 did not have a national anthem until 1931.
In 1918, Maryland Congressman John Charles Linthicum received a one-sentence letter from the Maryland Daughters of 1812.
Mrs. Holloway was a go-getter. When she believed in a cause, she went with it. Not just Star-Spangled Banner, but anything. And she was going to make Star-Spangled Banner because of Baltimore. She was a homer like me. That was going to be her national anthem. There was no two ways about it. And she got the job done.
In this letter, they pointed out that Francis Scott Key was from Maryland. They pointed out that the defense of Fort McHenry, later known as the Star-Spangled Banner, took place in Maryland. And as their Maryland representative, they formally requested him to put legislation before the president to make the Star-Spangled Banner our national anthem.
And so there was a resolution put before Congress, and it failed. And the reason that it failed is that the American public could not come together on what that song should be. Should it be America the Beautiful, which is very popular? Should it be Hail Columbia, which was used oftentimes, particularly in military situations? Or should it be the Star-Spangled Banner? Or should it be something else altogether?
In 1929, Linthicum's bill for the anthem finally made it to the floor of Congress.
So this debate began. And there were a lot of people who believed that it should not be the Star-Spangled Banner because, number one, it's very difficult to sing.
It's a hard song to sing because of the tremendous range. So you've got to be careful to start it in the right key. Otherwise, you get to a point in the song when it goes high when you either have to shift octaves or scrape. And that can be something very embarrassing and difficult, not only for the singer, but for those who would sing along.
Number two, It's a song about a war.
Is it belligerent? Yes, a little bit. But so is nation building. So is defending a nation.
There were other people who believed that because this was a drinking song, and we know, of course, that that's not technically true, it was a gentleman's club song. But why would we want to promote a song that is supposedly based on drinking? There were just many, many different opinions.
On March 3, 1931, President Herbert Hoover signed the law adopting the Star-Spangled Banner as the national anthem of the United States.
Today we're coming up on 200 years after the event, but less than 100 years after it has been named to be our national anthem. Is it secure in its place?
The Star-Spangled Banner is stirring, it's martial, but it's also elegant, and it's a joy when one hears it sung. It's uplifting, and perhaps more so even than my own national anthem, which I'm very proud and I love to sing. I think the Star-Spangled Banner has just that touch with history.
It's tradition. It's reinforcing. It's crossing generations.
It's a little high. It takes some effort. That's good. Should take a little effort.
That question's still important today, and it's resonant today, and it speaks to all of us today. And the question is this still the land of the free and the home of the brave? Does that flag still fly over a courageous, giving, generous, and brave people? And that's a question that each of us has the responsibility to answer in the story we choose to write as individuals and choose to write with our families in order to make our country a great republic for the future.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed as the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the
There's an awful fright on the streets tonight, far below the harvest moon. Washington lies sacked and burned, their guns will be here soon. But as I ride forth to Armstead's Fort, know my thoughts will be of you. Not an inch will yield beneath God's shield, with our neighbors strong and true. We'll stand alone for love and liberty. We'll stand alone for this one land of the free. And when the bombs of hell come raining down tonight, we'll stand alone for Baltimore and liberty. We'll stand alone for Baltimore.
There is no telling how many personal family histories have been discovered in the DAR library, and how many are still waiting to be found. The DAR Library is a specialized collection of American genealogical and historical manuscripts and publications totaling over believed by many to be one of the top 3 premier genealogical resource centers in the nation. The DAR Library has served family researchers for more than 110 years. With an estimated 20,000 visitors a year to its Washington, D.C. facility, the DAR Library has become an important American institution since originally being established to meet the growing research needs of the National Society's staff genealogists. When the National Society, Daughters of the American Revolution, was founded in 1890, the members were devoted to preserving the histories of the nation's founding fathers and mothers. The Society's mission was to perpetuate the memory and spirit of the Revolutionary patriots and to promote historic preservation, education, and patriotism. Processing as many as 600 membership applications a month in the early years, the Society quickly identified the need for its own collection of reference books to assist the Register General in verifying the lineages documented in application papers. In 1896, during the 5th Continental Congress, the Office of Librarian General was created, and the Congress unanimously selected Dr. Anita Newcomb McGee as the first to hold the position. She was instrumental in cultivating and defining the scope and nature of the new DAR Library. It would be distinguished by its focus on records which told the history of American families and communities, embracing state, county, town, and church materials. These unique holdings were not generally found in other Washington, D.C. libraries, or in some cases in any library at all. The library began with 125 books housed in a small room where the administrative offices of the Society were first located on 9th and F Streets Northwest. By the time the DAR moved into its newly built headquarters in 1910, the collection had grown dramatically to 5,000 volumes. The most valuable sources for this expanding collection were the daughters. Members generously donated the histories and records of their ancestors. When DAR state and chapter librarian positions were created, even more resources poured in. A healthy competition between chapters and states developed as they attempted to outdo one another with the number of books they donated. Local chapters began searching old cemeteries for headstones of patriots and submitting transcriptions from those headstones, as well as other local records to expand the variety and wealth of resources of the collection. When the Society moved into Memorial Continental Hall, the daughters thought the beautiful gallery space on the north side of the auditorium would become the permanent home of the DAR Library. But the collection outgrew this space and moved to the second floor of the newly built Constitution Hall in 1929. When the library collection once again exceeded its surroundings, a major remodeling of the Memorial Continental Hall Beaux-Arts-style auditorium was completed in 1949 to house a library. Since that time, periodic alterations to the auditorium have allowed for the collection's growth. While the current home of the DAR Library is distinctive in its architectural beauty, historic significance, and for hosting more than just researchers, the most important aspect of the DAR Library is its unique collection and resources. More than a century after its creation, the DAR Library now contains over 185,000 volumes, 300,000 digitized files, and 65,000 microforms. Just as it has been since shortly after 1900, the DAR Library is open to the public. DAR, SAR, SR, and CAR members may use the library for free, while others pay a small daily user fee that helps support the basic operations of the library. Researchers come from near and far to use a library, and its own publications and online catalog help those visitors to be more prepared prior to their arrival. With its scope clearly defined from its creation, the DAR Library primarily serves the needs of those doing American genealogical and historical research. The broad collection includes materials from 4 centuries of American history and represents a great diversity of peoples and traditions. The distinction of being one of the country's premier genealogical research centers is a credit to the quantity and quality of its collection, but more specifically for the wealth of materials unique to the DAR. The DAR library possesses over 20,000 typescript volumes covering all 50 states, which contain previously uncollected genealogical materials such as Bible records, local histories, cemetery transcriptions, court record abstracts, censuses, military records, vital records, and other similar sources. These records, called Genealogical Records Committee Reports or GRC reports, represent one of the most important and unique parts of the collection. Whether a novice or an expert genealogist or anywhere in between, the DAR library is an essential resource collection for all researchers to visit. When preparing a trip to the DAR library, make sure to plan ahead. Peruse the DAR library website to gather general information, do preliminary research with the online library catalog, and determine the services available to researchers on site and from afar. A must for those anticipating thorough research at the DAR library is to purchase the publication American Genealogical Research at the DAR. This is the only comprehensive guide to the genealogical resources and services available at DAR headquarters. Once you arrive at the DAR library, professional library staff are available at the reference desk to get you started on your search and help you along the way. Online catalogs and databases are accessible at a number of computer terminals provided in the library. Some of these electronic resources are only available on site at the library and bring hard-to-find data to your fingertips using powerful and continuously expanding genealogical and historical document databases. For many hard-to-find records not in print or electronic form, researchers can use the Symes Technology Center. In addition to several major genealogical subscription databases, the National Society's own research databases can be accessed in the center, including digitized membership application papers. The center also contains a wide variety of unique microform publications and special collections. After concluding your visit to the DAR library, you can continue to utilize a number of DAR library resources from your own home. The same is true for those who can't make a trip to the Washington, D.C. facility at all. For a small fee, the DAR library offers a search service to find requested on-site records for off-site researchers, as well as a photocopy service to provide specific copies from cited works available in the library. While a trip to the DAR library is most beneficial to researchers, the DAR has made great strides in enhancing digital and online resources to make its records more accessible and safe for future generations. Recent major efforts have included digitization of paper records and enhanced database indexing. The DAR is committed to helping advance the field of genealogy for generations to come. It has hosted popular genealogy conferences, attracting well-known genealogists and historians to speak along with the expert DAR genealogy and library employees on engaging topics in the field. Genealogical articles and books published by DAR include Forgotten Patriots, African American and American Indian Patriots in the Revolutionary War. This culmination of more than 25 years of research documents approximately 6,600 names of African Americans and American Indians who contributed to the cause of independence. In continuing important genealogical research and education, the DAR hopes to encourage people to explore and preserve their own family histories, adding to the shared wealth of knowledge of our collective past. Through all the expansion, transition, and enhancements of the library, there is no doubt where the credit lies for the continued success of the DAR library. Dedicated daughters working with dedicated staff. The prestige of the DAR library could never have been realized without the devotion and generosity of DAR members and other friends of the library. The future success of the library lies in your hands. Since its founding, the DAR library has prospered from the generosity of DAR members and other genealogists. From the original book donations and financial contributions made to start the collection, to volunteers researching and compiling the genealogical records collection, DAR members have built an irreplaceable repository of American history. Even members who lived far away and who could never visit the DAR library in person felt a connection and a devotion to their library. By donating their local and family histories, they helped not only to preserve their family lineages, but also to provide this rarely seen genealogical data to those across the country who might not have discovered these details otherwise. At its onset, the library needed important supplies in addition to books in order to thrive. The Mary Washington chapter of Washington, D.C. helped furnish the library in its new home, providing such vital equipment as tables, chairs, and bookshelves. The chapter maintained their support to the library until 1930, and some of those original donated furnishings are still in use in the library today. This type of dedicated support from the membership is one reason for the success of the library, and continued support for the membership is a major way for the library to maintain its significance and continue to grow. Today, the small service fee that public researchers pay is only a fraction of the income needed for daily operational costs. The library is supported primarily through membership dues, gifts, and bequests. It welcomes donations of books and other genealogical materials. People interested in donating materials to the library can browse the library wish list and donation form online or contact the library acquisitions office with questions and for more information. Another way to support library operations and help enrich the collection is by providing financial contributions. All gifts, small or large, by individuals or groups, are important to the library. Some recent financial contributions for special enhancement projects include a bequest from the North Carolina member that allowed the library to take better advantage of its space by installing compact shelving. The California State Society raised money to enable the DAR to install a new entry doorway to provide easier visibility and access to the library. And the Wisconsin State Society generously donated funds for the production and distribution of this video to help better educate the members and the public about the Society's amazing resource in the DAR library and how they can help support it. Thousands of others make donations that help support special projects, improve the physical condition of the library, and update and expand the book collection. These generous individuals receive the distinct honor of being counted among the Friends of the Library. As such, they qualify for a designated pin in recognition of their generosity. Financial contributions and donations of materials are a major reason the library has thrived through the years, but just as important is the volunteer support given to the library since its founding. Volunteer opportunities for those who want to help, whether on-site at the library or from the convenience of their own home, include projects such as book indexing. DAR members who volunteer their time may earn credit towards a special bookworm pin, which recognizes the many hours they have dedicated to these important projects. Support of the work and mission of the DAR library goes even beyond the walls of the beautiful headquarters building. Many members help spread the good word about the DAR organization by donating DAR publications to their local libraries or other community organizations. There is much that continually needs to be done to sustain the DAR library's collection and historic home, with many projects on the horizon to help keep the library relevant and progressive as new technologies revolutionize genealogical record-keeping and research. Your support is greatly needed and deeply appreciated. The great passion that members have shown for more than a century to preserve the stories and records of our ancestors, and in turn provide that valuable information to others, has made the DAR Library a great success story. An incredible opportunity awaits those of you who have that same passion and who would like to be part of history in the making by helping shape and support the future of the DAR Library.
A desert adventure. The Boulder City Conservation Easement is brought to you by the Clark County Desert Conservation Program. Hello! Are you a responsible desert enthusiast, an off-highway vehicle rider, a scientist, or a construction worker? Well then, welcome to Boulder City Conservation Easement. Before you embark on your desert adventure, there are a few things you should know. This is a conservation area, and it is your responsibility to respect, protect, and enjoy. But first, let's go over the history and purpose of the area and all of the things you are going to encounter on your desert adventure. Fun fact, in 1931, Boulder City was established by the federal government. That is why there is no gambling in Boulder City. For decades, the Las Vegas Valley has been one of the most rapidly growing regions in the country. However, in 1989, the development community faced a new and unexpected challenge. No, that's not it. That wasn't the problem. We went too far back. The catalyst of our story begins with a discussion of the desert tortoise. The desert tortoise is an emblem of the Mojave Desert, but this species and many other Mojave Desert species are at risk from the increasing pressures of development and urbanization. The problem: in 1989, when the desert tortoise was listed under the Endangered Species Act, the development community had to halt construction, which significantly impeded the economy. The solution? Clark County, along with several other entities, came up with a plan that would allow construction to resume in the county while also preserving habitat for the desert tortoise. Part of that plan required the establishment of the Boulder City Conservation Easement. This easement was established in 1995 to benefit the desert tortoise. You may be asking, what is an easement and why does the Boulder City Conservation Easement exist? An easement allows for the right to cross or otherwise use someone else's land for a specified purpose. A conservation easement is a voluntary legal agreement between a landowner and a land trust or government agency that permanently limits uses of the land in order to protect its conservation values. The Boulder City Conservation Easement exists to preserve the natural desert environment so that development can occur in other areas of Clark County. The 86,423-acre Boulder City Conservation Easement is conveniently located off the 95 in the El Dorado Valley south of Boulder City. You know, the vast desert landscape next to the solar fields. Fun fact: Boulder City is the municipality with the largest amount of land in southern Nevada. Now that we have established what the easement is, let's talk about the easement do's and don'ts. If you plan to access the easement for work on an adjacent area, including substations and solar fields, yes, we are talking to you, construction worker. Or if you are on the easement to recreate or conduct research, talking to you, desert enthusiast, OHV writer, or scientist, it's necessary that you understand the rules of the area. Everyone is responsible for following the rules before accessing the area. Let's discuss the do's and don'ts of the Boulder City Conservation Easement. Make sure you're prepared before crossing the easement. Have a map. In this vast open space, you may be tempted to traverse the land in your automobile.
Drive only on designated roads. No sign, no road.
That's right. There are designated roads for all vehicles. So the next time you come across an intersection, choose the right road to drive on, indicated by signage. We know some of you have a lead foot.
The speed limit is 25 miles an hour on the designated roads of the easement.
So let up on the gas. There's no traffic, and enjoy the desert. We know that you need target practice.
There's a time and a place for everything. Target practice is not allowed on the easement, ever.
So keep those firearms holstered. Where are you going with that?
Act responsibly. There's no dumping or littering allowed on the easement.
Do your part by picking up trash on the easement. That reminds me, there is no camping on the easement. We know that dogs are a person's best friend and may accompany you on your desert adventure. These domesticated animals can become rambunctious when encountering such a wild environment.
Please keep your dogs on a leash for their safety and the safety of other desert inhabitants.
Upon your travel through the easement, you may come across tortoises, lizards, snakes, birds, and a variety of plant species.
Hey, where are you going with that?
Are you trying to take that cactus with you?
It's illegal to take plants, animals, or even geological specimens.
Don't release any animals onto the easement, including your pet desert tortoise. Throughout your adventure, be on the lookout for desert tortoises on the road. Tortoises may use the shade of your vehicle to keep cool. Always check under your tires for desert tortoises before moving your vehicle. Be sure to check underneath the front and back tires. Here's a quick recap of the rules. Stay on designated roads. Keep firearms holstered. No camping. No dumping. No releasing animals. Follow the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit. Keep dogs on a leash. Don't take plants or animals. Always check under vehicles for desert tortoises before moving. When visiting the Boulder City Conservation Easement, enjoy a leisurely stroll, snap photos of your adventure, observe plants, birdwatch, have a picnic, or cautiously drive through. Please remember to always walk out with everything you walk in with. By using the desert responsibly, you help ensure a bright future for all Clark County residents. Remember, respect, protect, and enjoy our desert.
What do you guys want to do?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
I don't know. What do you want to do?
1, 2, ready, go. Gonna pull the stops, gonna make it go. Drop down, gagged and bound, just sitting down and getting nowhere. You're living on a wing and a prayer. Gonna put them things together. You know it's now or never. You're building a
What do you guys want to do now?
I'm Alan Duke with Boulder City Friends of the Arts, welcoming you to yet another free concert sponsored by Eldorado Energy, the city of Boulder City, and the helpers are Patty up there, and say hi to Patty, and Roger. Say happy birthday to Roger. And, of course, the Boulder City Library and the Boulder City Friends of the Arts, the sponsors and the members. And remember that every dollar that you stuff into those pink cans goes to help provide the next free concert that you're going to have in Boulder City. One reminder, of course, when necessary, the bathrooms in the library are open and will be open throughout the entire concert. And there'll be a break about halfway through, probably about 8 o'clock. Welcome. And tonight we're going to start with Angelo D'Agostini, who's going to be the opening act for the Tony D'Agostini.
When I was a boy, I played charades. I never could get the second syllable. Then I said, fuck the world, no things to do. Then I crawled into my arms. I heard the times as they I'm not sure if it's stop motion film or if it's a slideshow. Inside my camera I could see and all the people I used to know. Rent the road from the backseat. I don't wanna shout my lungs. Life's not really that When I was a boy, I played the guitar. Wonder if I'll ever play again. Wonder if I'll ever be on my own. On the books of my records. Sit in my chair and I can't believe I'm not sure if it's stop motion film or if it's a slideshow. Inside my camera I could see and all the people I used to know. I wrote with a couple of friends. California fire have been ready long before suicide settled ready for the world's return. Visions with one eye closed and the others on. Wake up, stir dust from my bed, pound the earth with my fist. Standing, I am for movement and
California flight have been ready long before suicide settled ready for the world to turn. Visions for night clothes and the others on. Wake up, see the front sway lightly, the pines will bend and now see your vision of the road, unbroken light. Would you stay up all night, count the stars? Why are you crying? Did you lose all your sight around the things waiting inside? Mama knows best things simple. Baby knows himself a little. If you can't sleep, then just remember the love that's in your heart. On my 16th video quiet time around people that met once or twice. But all the times that you cried, me too losing me, changing your life. One knows best things simple. Baby knows himself a little tight. If you can't sleep, then just remember the love that's in your heart. My 16th feel my heart all tight, piece of hope, changing inside. Know that you'll be alright. Desire you, nothing more. I was 3 when you were born. I'm the footprints just behind you when you kick open the door. MySpace.com/AngelaDiAugustine, and then I have a mailing list up there if you want to sign it. So thanks.
Hello, I'm Tony DiAugustine, and that's my son, Angelo. And that's the music stand. Angelo just graduated high school. He's 18 and writes his own material and has a beautiful voice, and incredible expression, and plays that guitar. I feel very lucky as a father. I'd like to introduce my quartet, if I could. On bass, Justin Vogel. Here comes the saxophonist. On very short notice, my regular saxophone player had a family issue, and so we have Rob Mader filling in for us on saxophone, doing a great job. And the one and only Kocho Arby.
I just thought you might get a kick out of this. I'm working for Roseanne. Filming a jazz concert. The library. Yep. The amphitheater's finally getting some use. I'm working for Roseanne. For BCTV. Yes, I'm recording. I know it sounds good to the camera. Keyboard player, saxophone, bass, drums. Very first scene
Slater on sax. Justin Vogel on bass. And Coach Harvey on keyboard. Well, while we try to pull ourselves back together after the windstorm.
I feel so old. Actually, I probably do some of it, but I don't know it. You know, right, left, right. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a giant.
We've been asked to mix some of my originals with some jazz standards. So this number we'd like to play for you is called Stella.
I just love it. That imaginative, fun, caring, can't stay sober. basically the idea that our lives have no meaning. I mean, me and the guys, we're not existentialists. Existentialists basically say life has nothing has meaning. Existentialists say we have no meaning. And I would say, me and my friends are more absurdists. We say we have no meaning. And then we laugh at it. music, and you might enjoy it. So whatever works. Talk to you later. Hope you can make it
Thanks, everyone. This next song is called A Thought. It's a song I wrote for my dad.
we'd like to do a standard written by Duke Ellington called A Train. If we put our own little spin on it. just take a minute. I wanted to thank a few people. The people that were responsible for having us here. First of all, I'd like to thank Sabina of the Council for the Arts. Thank you so much, Sabina, for finding us and bringing us here to Boulder. I'd also like to thank Sue Berger.
It's just a small jazz band.
And
Public concert. And I was kind of calling people I thought who might enjoy it.
we'd actually like to do a nice standard that everybody should know, and we can all sing together. Today happens to be Roger Hall's birthday. And if we could just sing him happy birthday, what do you think? Yeah. Birthday, dear Roger. Happy birthday to you. Come on, I can't hear you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Roger. Happy birthday to you. I think he's 21 tonight, so I think he can drink. I think he's headed to Vegas to close all the bars. We'd like to close our first set with the swing tune that I wrote this year called The Switch. Hope you enjoy. We're really lucky to have some friends and family here, and so I just want to say this is out to Cocho Arby's family. I wrote this next song for Cocho called Cha-Cha de Cocho. I don't really know what it means, but it sounded good. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.